Face-framing hairstyles that slim a round face. Sometimes, without even noticing, we get used to the way things have always been. The same part, the same length brushing our cheeks, the same way we tuck it behind one ear when we need to see clearly. It feels familiar, comfortable. But over time, what once felt flattering can start to feel just a little less easy. For many women over 60, subtle shifts in our face shape, softened jawlines, fuller cheeks, or a slight change in proportions can make an old hairstyle feel heavier than it used to. It's not about doing anything wrong. It's about gently updating the frame around a picture that's still beautiful. Welcome to Elder Insights, where we believe beauty after 60 is about refinement, not reinvention. Today, we're exploring something small but transformative: how adjusting the way your hairstyle frames your face can create a lighter, lifted look without needing a big change. You don't have to start over. You don't have to chase trends. You simply have to look at your familiar style with fresh, thoughtful eyes. We'll walk through 6 practical, easy-to-apply techniques that help slim and softly lift a rounder face, creating a more open, graceful silhouette. And if you find these tips helpful, I'd love to invite you to subscribe to Elder Insights. We share calm, practical ideas to help you feel at ease and confident with your reflection, right where you are in life. Because beauty isn't about chasing something new. It's about nurturing what's already yours. And here's the key insight most women miss. It's not the length alone that makes the difference. It's how you shape the space around your cheekbones and jawline. A small shift. But number 1, light layers around the cheeks. Sometimes it's the things we stop noticing that make the biggest difference. For many women, especially after 60, it's easy to fall into a familiar rhythm with our hair, keeping it mostly one length around the face, maybe trimming a little now and then, but keeping that smooth, even outline we've trusted for years. It feels safe, neat, predictable, and for a long time, it truly was the best choice. When the skin had a little more firmness, when the face had sharper contours, that simple, classic line worked effortlessly to frame our features. But with time, even the most faithful styles sometimes need a little adjusting. As the cheeks soften and the jawline loses a bit of its sharpness, hair that hugs the face in a straight, heavy sheet can quietly add weight where we don't want it. Instead of sculpting the face, it can start to emphasize roundness, making the cheeks look fuller and the overall face shape appear wider. It's not dramatic. It's not something you notice all at once. It's more like a gradual feeling. One day, you realize that your reflection seems heavier around the sides, even when everything else, makeup, earrings, glasses, stays the same. This happens because a single-length curtain of hair draws the eye outward. Without natural movement around the face, the width of the cheeks becomes the focal point. And over time, that small visual trick can make the whole silhouette feel weighed down, even if the hair itself is beautifully cared for. The good news? You don't need to overhaul your style. You don't need to chop it short or add dramatic layers. A better way is much simpler and much softer. Adding gentle, face-framing layers around the cheeks creates instant lightness. Not choppy, not fussy, just a few subtle snips, starting slightly above the fullest part of your cheekbone and tapering downward, following the natural curve of your face. These soft layers break up the heavy line, creating movement and lift. They naturally guide the eye upward instead of outward, giving the impression of higher cheekbones and a longer, more elegant face shape. And here's an important piece. Soft layering isn't about losing thickness or making your hair thin out. When done thoughtfully, it actually gives the illusion of fullness in the right places, closer to the crown and cheekbones, rather than across the widest part of the face. If you've kept a one-length style for years, it's completely understandable. It once made styling easier. It felt reliable, polished, and safe. You probably never thought twice about it because it worked. But sometimes, the styles that once served us best just need a tiny, thoughtful update. Not because we've changed too much, but because a little shift can bring out the beauty that's already there, just waiting to be seen in a new light. So the next time you're at the salon, or even just styling at home, consider asking for soft layers that lightly skim your cheekbones and taper gently down. Nothing drastic, nothing sharp, just a quiet change that lightens, lifts, and rebalances your look. Sometimes the smallest edits make the biggest difference, not because they change who you are, but because they let who you are shine through more clearly. And speaking of small, powerful changes, there's another area that's just as easy to overlook but can dramatically alter the way your face is framed: where you place your part line. Let's talk about that next. Number 2. Shifting your part line for a subtle lift. One of the simplest ways to instantly change the way your face is framed has nothing to do with cutting your hair. It starts with something even easier: the part line. Fact: where you part your hair plays a quiet but powerful role in how the eye perceives the shape of your face. When you consistently part your hair in the same spot, especially if it's been there for years, it can create strong lines that either balance or emphasize certain facial features. A center part, for example, draws a clean vertical line down the middle of the face. For women with a naturally rounder face shape, this can unintentionally highlight width across the cheeks and soften the angles even more. It makes the overall look more symmetrical, but not necessarily more lifted. On the other hand, a slight off-center part can gently offset the roundness, creating a feeling of upward movement. It adds a little asymmetry, which helps guide the eye along a diagonal line, giving the illusion of a longer, more sculpted face without changing anything else about your cut or style. If the parting is too deep, however, like a dramatic side sweep, it can sometimes look unbalanced, especially if hair volume has shifted with age. The key is a soft, natural shift, just a finger width to the left or right of center. It's a change so small you might not even notice it at first glance. But when you look closer, you'll see how it reshapes the way the hair falls, where the volume sits, and how the light plays across your features. And the best part? There's no commitment. You can simply adjust your part after washing, or even with dry styling, and instantly see how it alters your reflection. If you've been parting your hair the same way for decades, it's understandable. It became second nature, part muscle memory, part comfort, part tradition. You probably never thought twice about it, because when we find something that works, we tend to trust it without question. But every now and then, it's worth asking gently, is this still working for me now? A soft shift in your part line can refresh your entire look without scissors, color, or products. It's a quiet tweak that brings a little more life, a little more lift, and a little more elegance to your frame. Sometimes, the easiest changes are the ones hiding in plain sight. No drastic moves, no reinvention, just a subtle choice that reminds you of the flexibility and grace you've always had. Next, we'll look at another small but powerful adjustment, something that can lighten the overall silhouette of your hair without losing the fullness you love. Adding volume near the crown. Number 3, adding gentle volume at the crown. It's easy to think that more volume around the sides will balance a rounder face. After all, fullness feels youthful, right? But in reality, volume placed too low or too wide can do the opposite. It can quietly add width, making the face seem even rounder. What most women over 60 don't realize is that where you place the volume matters just as much as how much you create. Instead of focusing on the sides, the smarter place to lift is the crown, the area near the top of your head, just behind the hairline. Adding subtle lift at the crown draws the eye upward. It creates the visual effect of length and lightness, helping to elongate the face shape naturally. It also keeps the overall silhouette looking soft and graceful, rather than bottom-heavy or boxy. You don't need dramatic teasing or heavy products. Simple techniques like gently blow-drying with a round brush at the roots, using a lightweight volumizing spray, or even lightly backcombing a small section underneath can create just enough lift to change the whole balance of your look. It's not about chasing big, towering styles. It's about creating a soft, natural rise that brings attention upward and gives your face a little breathing room. If you spent years avoiding volume because you were afraid of looking overdone, that's completely understandable. There was a time when volume often meant stiff sprays, tight curls, or structured styles that didn't feel natural or easy. You probably associated lift with high maintenance or a look that didn't feel like you. But gentle crown volume today isn't about big hair. It's about restoring lightness and space to your overall look, giving your features more room to shine. Without it, hair can cling to the scalp and fall heavily around the sides, unintentionally exaggerating roundness and weighing down the whole face. By softly lifting at the crown, you create a natural height that counterbalances softer cheeks, adds movement, and enhances the way your hair frames your eyes, cheekbones, and jawline. A small change, yes, but a meaningful one. It's not about looking different. It's about letting your natural elegance rise to the surface. Sometimes, a little lift in the right place feels less like a styling trick and more like a breath of fresh air for your reflection. Next, we'll explore another simple, yet powerful tip, one that's all about how you finish your ends, choosing a soft feathered edge over a blunt line. Number 4. Soft feathered ends instead of heavy lines. Have you ever noticed how a sharp, blunt haircut can feel heavier than you expect? At first, it can seem clean and polished, but over time, especially as our face shape softens, that heavy edge can feel like it's dragging everything downward. There's a simple reason why. Blunt ends create a strong visual stop. They draw the eye straight across the bottom of the hair, emphasizing width at exactly the point where many women over 60 would prefer a little more lift and lightness. When hair ends in a thick, straight line around the chin or shoulders, it adds visual weight, not just to the hair itself, but to the face it frames. The result can feel less airy, less open, and sometimes unintentionally highlight the very fullness you're trying to balance. Choosing soft, feathered ends instead makes all the difference. Feathered ends taper gently, creating a lighter, more fluid movement around the face and shoulders. They allow the hair to move with you, rather than sitting in a solid, heavy mass. And that movement tricks the eye into seeing a more elongated, graceful line, one that slims and lifts the overall silhouette. You don't need extreme layering or visible choppiness, just a light texturizing at the tips enough to soften the finish and give the hair a natural flow without losing fullness. If you've held on to blunt ends for years, it makes perfect sense. There was a time when a strong, solid cut felt modern and stylish. Sharp lines were considered youthful and chic. You probably trusted that clean line to give your hair a healthy, structured look. And it likely did for many years. But styles that once served us well sometimes need a small evolution to keep serving who we are now. Not because we need to chase something different, but because we deserve a reflection that feels as light, easy, and beautiful as the life we're living today. Choosing feathered ends is a subtle choice. It doesn't scream change. It simply whispers a little more grace into the way your hair frames your face. The next time you visit your stylist, you can ask for ends that are lightly softened with texturizing shears or gentle point cutting, especially around the front sections that frame your cheeks and jaw. It's a small shift, but it makes a big visual difference. The weight lifts, the face opens, and your reflection feels a little more like the you that you know inside. Quiet changes often carry the most powerful impact, not because they demand attention, but because they invite ease and confidence back into the everyday moments. Next, we'll move to another important detail, something that has less to do with cutting or parting and everything to do with how you finish the frame. Choosing the right face framing length for your features. Number 5, choosing the right face framing length. Sometimes the difference between feeling off and feeling perfectly in balance comes down to a detail so small it's easy to overlook: the length of the hair that frames your face. It's not just about long or short. It's about where the hair falls in relation to your features. If face framing pieces land at the widest part of your cheeks or lower, toward the jawline, they can quietly add width to your face without you even realizing it. That extra width might not be obvious when you first style your hair, but over time, in photos or passing mirrors, you might sense that something isn't lifting or opening the way you hoped. The natural instinct is often to grow those front pieces longer, thinking they'll slim and elongate the face. And in some cases, longer framing can help. But if the length isn't thoughtfully placed, it can backfire, pulling the face downward and making the cheeks or jawline feel heavier instead of lighter. The key is to have face framing layers or soft angles that hit just above or just below the widest part of your face, not directly across it. When framing ends just above the cheeks, it draws the eye upward, creating a lifting effect that subtly elongates the face. When framing ends just below the jawline, it pulls attention past the widest points, leading the eye down in a more graceful, continuous line. It's a small adjustment, but it can completely change the way your features are highlighted. If you've kept your framing pieces at the same length for years, it's understandable. Those pieces probably worked beautifully when your face had sharper angles and less softness. You may never have thought to adjust them because they felt familiar, easy, and flattering for so long. But giving yourself permission to recalibrate just slightly can make everything feel more in harmony again. Not newer, not trendier, simply more you. The beautiful part is that adjusting your face framing length doesn't require a major cut. Sometimes it's just a matter of trimming or layering a small section differently, ensuring that the visual weight is placed thoughtfully in relation to your current features. You can talk to your stylist about where your cheeks and jawline sit now and adjust the framing pieces to complement those shifts in the most natural, supportive way. When the frame fits the picture perfectly, everything feels a little lighter, a little brighter, and a little more effortless. It's a quiet change, but a meaningful one. Next, we'll talk about a final element that ties everything together: how soft, side-swept bangs can transform the way your face is framed without committing to a full fringe. Number 6. Soft, side-swept bangs for gentle framing. Fact: one of the easiest ways to adjust the way your face is perceived without touching the length of your hair is through the shape and placement of bangs. For women with rounder face shapes, a full, straight-across fringe can sometimes close the face off, making it feel shorter and wider than it really is. The strong horizontal line acts like a visual stop, cutting the face into sections rather than allowing the eye to move naturally. Soft, side-swept bangs, on the other hand, create a diagonal movement across the forehead. This diagonal line guides the eye gently from one side of the face to the other, adding openness and the illusion of length. It's a small adjustment that has a surprisingly large impact on how balanced and lifted your face appears. When side-swept bangs are feathered and blended into the longer layers around the face, they create a seamless transition, one that frames without boxing in or overwhelming your features. The sweep can start higher at the part line and angle downward lightly toward the temple, brushing just above or along the brow. This soft movement not only slins the appearance of the forehead and cheeks, but also draws attention to the eyes, a natural focal point that enhances connection and expression. If you've shied away from bangs in the past, it's completely understandable. There was a time when bangs often meant heavy, stiff, high-maintenance styles that needed constant trimming and styling. You may have learned to associate bangs with feeling restricted or fighting against natural cowlicks and growth patterns. But today, bangs can be lighter, softer, and much easier to wear. They're not about hiding the forehead. They're about softly framing the face, adding just enough structure to lift and balance the overall silhouette without feeling like a commitment. The beauty of side-swept bangs is their flexibility. You can style them forward for more framing, tuck them back for an open look, or blend them into your layers as they grow without needing an awkward transition. Without some type of gentle forehead framing, especially as hairlines and textures shift with age, the face can sometimes feel overly exposed or bare, emphasizing width across the cheeks rather than upward movement. By adding soft, sweeping bangs, you create a natural flow that lifts, slims, and brightens your entire face, without sacrificing the easy, low-maintenance feel you enjoy. Sometimes the most graceful updates are the ones that move with you, not against you. When it comes to finding the right hairstyle after 60, it's not about reinventing yourself. It's about making thoughtful, gentle shifts that reflect the beauty you already carry. A lighter frame around the cheeks. A part line shifted just enough to lift the eye. Subtle crown volume that feels natural, not forced. Soft, feathered ends that move with you. Face framing lengths that balance rather than widen. And the quiet elegance of side-swept bangs that frame without overwhelming. Each small adjustment by itself might seem almost too simple to matter, but together, they create a reflection that feels more at ease, more open, and more truly yours. You're not chasing trends. You're choosing refinement. You're not covering anything up. You're lifting what's already beautiful. The beauty of these shifts is that they meet you exactly where you are. They don't demand that you look different. They simply invite your features, the smile lines, the sparkling eyes, the life you've lived, to shine with just a little more ease. If today's tips resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe to Elder Insights. We share calm, practical ideas to help you fine-tune your beauty, your style, and your everyday confidence, with grace, not pressure. You deserve a reflection that feels like a gentle yes every time you catch your own eye. And sometimes, all it takes is a few quiet changes to feel fully at home in your own beauty again. Thank you for being here. And until next time, stay well, stay wise, and stay wonderfully yourself.